Hello, this is Pastor Manning bringing you the Beacon of Hope podcast from Lighthouse Baptist Church at 2032 Cedar Hill Road, Lancaster, Ohio, continuing on a series which I've entitled Side Notes, Thoughts from a Pastor's Study. And I want to bring you today a thought from the book of John, chapter 7, verses 14 and 15. And the thought derived from these verses is this question: what is education? Let me say at the onset of this particular publication that I am very much for education. I believe that we are supposed to grow in our knowledge. I believe that we are supposed to be people who keep learning. I believe that to be people of wisdom and people of understanding, that we should due diligence to add as much as we can to our capacities and our knowledge base so that we may be the most useful to our families, to our country, to ourselves, and ultimately and emphatically to our Lord. I am not a proponent of the pride of ignorance, where some people seem to take a pride in what they don't know and never knowing anything, and they wallow in their ignorance of things. Neither do I take the stance or the approach that somehow being a possessor of degrees or education as it is counted somehow makes you a superior being to someone else. The passage that caught my attention on this issue, and this, I told you, John 7, verses 14 and 15, says this regarding Jesus. It says, "Now about the midst of the feast, Jesus went up into the temple and taught. And the Jews marveled, saying, How knoweth this man letters, having never learned?" You understand, as far as they knew, Jesus was the son of Joseph, who was a carpenter. And yet here he is teaching in the temple. And the question they have is, how does this man, as they say it, how knoweth this man letters? In other words, he can read well, he understands what's written, he's talking to them about what's in the law of God. How knoweth this man letters, having never learned? What caught my attention with that was because they knew he had not been through the prescribed structure of education, that the average person who was going to be a priest or a teacher of the law of some type, he had not been through the prescribed process of education that those people went through. They considered him to have never learned. Now, I understand this passage is talking about our Lord. And so I'm not diminishing from that, nor am I trying to minimize in any way his divine wisdom and the incredible thing of who Jesus is and who he was and why he was able to teach them. But what was said about him triggered the thought that many people think that someone is uneducated if that person has not been through the particular system of discipline that is recognized or acknowledged as a form of education. For instance, a person who has worked in a particular field, I mean a field of service or labor or trade or whatever, and has the hands-on knowledge and capacity how to do the job well, is way too often subordinated by what I think are short-sighted companies. They are subordinated to someone who is new to what is actually being done, but possesses, as it were, considered more education than what the first person does. In other words, person A does not have a bachelor's degree, does not have a master's degree in a particular field of study or whatever, a particular thing that they're doing, but yet they have 10, 15 years experience actually doing this thing, actually knowing how it operates. And here comes somebody who doesn't actually know how it operates. They think they do, but all they've done are pass tests regarding this. But they have a bachelor's degree or they have a master's degree. And so when they come out there, here's this person who actually knows how to get things done, being subordinated to this person who has demonstrated that they have an ability to pass tests and way, way too often get themselves in debt doing it. Now, I'm not saying all education in the formal or classical sense is a waste. But I'm asking the question, which this verse caused me to think of, what is education? And is education such a narrow thing that we have to have a classroom setting or a classical style structure in order to get education? I don't believe so. I believe that a person can receive education from nearly everything they come in contact with in life if that person will possess humility so they can be taught, will exercise diligence so that they profit from whatever encounter they're having, and if they will set themselves to learn and to be advanced by what life brings them. Now, in the spirit of disclosure here, I have 2 earned degrees. I have both an undergraduate and a graduate degree. I pastor a New Testament church. I am benefited by what I learned in that educational process. There are things that have helped me and therefore have helped the church that I pastor. But I believe I could have finished college and actually not gotten an education. I also personally know and have known men who never went to college but became thoroughly educated. So what is education? Education lies more in, as I mentioned, the humility, the teachability that comes with humility, and diligent application after knowledge that someone puts forth theirself. So, someone says, I can't afford to go to college. Well, I don't think anybody should go in debt to go to college. And if you can't afford to go, don't let that limit you. You say, well, I'm too old. No, you're not. Not if you're alive. Well, I couldn't. Yes, you could. You can get an education. And by the way, making sure that life is a continual education by being active in your life, not passive, waiting for somebody to give you something, but going after things, that way of approaching things will stand you in good stead for learning and learning how to learn. It keeps you youthful. It keeps you excited. It'll give you a vibrancy of life that other things can't. So they said, how does he know letters? He never learned. And don't be afraid if you've not had opportunity for something you would have liked to have done, or if you think that maybe you need to go about a different way. Don't be afraid of being uneducated just because you did not follow a particular system. Think on these things, and hopefully they'll be a part of your education. God bless you.